In a documentary, there's a couple things I'll share with you guys on what I took away from it. But Rob, maybe share the clip on how he got access to some of the footage of the documentary. Is this the one, Rob?
Yep.
Go for it.
We got that footage of Diddy.
I think most journalists would not disclose their sources.
Does he know y'all have this in the doc?
I would doubt.
So when this airs, that'll be the first time that his legal team, Diddy, that everybody knows that this footage is now seeing the light of day. Perhaps.
Combs' team firing back in a statement to NBC News, saying the Netflix so-called documentary is a shameful hit piece and that they relied on stolen footage that was never authorized for release. His team sending a cease and desist to Netflix.
In 50 Cent's newest documentary, the loudest moment may be the one that says the least. The film suggests that silence can speak far more clearly than any headline-making allegation, especially when powerful names have long moved in completely different public worlds. For years, figures like Diddy and TD Jakes were rarely discussed in the same breath when it came to scrutiny, because music, ministry, and influence were treated as separate arenas. But the documentary argues that when influence stretches across institutions, uncomfortable truths do not simply vanish. They wait in the background. What appears to have remained buried was not framed as one isolated moment, but as part of a larger culture that rewarded loyalty, protected carefully polished images, and taught people nearby that keeping quiet felt safer than telling the truth. And once that silence starts to crack, the bigger issue is no longer just what may have happened. It becomes a question of endurance. How did the atmosphere around it remain untouched for so long, and who benefited while it did?
Himself wrapped his arms around me and tried to kiss me. And in that moment, I literally died.
This was a shock to many in the religious community. Bishop TD Jakes has been a spiritual advisor to presidents and a religious voice to thousands.
Because, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has prepared us for his departure for many decades. And many people, if you wrongly idol worship someone, you could.
In 50 Cent's documentary, the spotlight turns to a prominent church leader stepping aside, and suddenly the timing becomes impossible to ignore. TD Jakes has spent decades building a public image rooted in certainty, discipline, authority, and close ties to civic power. So when a visible leadership shift takes place, it does not land like a routine passing of the torch. It lands like a moment people immediately want to decode. In an era when reputations can change overnight, a step back is rarely viewed as just a quiet retirement. It is often read as a move made with awareness of what may be coming next. Because this transition arrives amid separate legal attention surrounding Diddy, public conversation quickly begins drawing connections, even before anything is proven or fully understood. That is what gives the story its tension. In the overlap between faith, fame, and power, every move can carry both spiritual meaning and strategic value. The documentary leaves viewers with a lingering question. When a high-profile decision is made, how do we tell the difference between a sincere act of faith and an effort to get ahead of risk?
A shake in not only the religious community, but our culture's community. To where Dallas, we have people like Kirk Franklin, Erykah Badu. Of these names, and then you hear someone like Bishop Jakes, Potter's House, that of course has risen Dallas to where you have these entities and these figures that, when you say the name, you kind of already know what it is. And we just recently seen that Bishop Jakes had stepped down. Now, I want to have this conversation because I have my own theories. No Diddy, but I have my own theories about why he would step down. But I do want to address the fact that he did step down. What is y'all take on it? And then also, where does it go from here? Dooney, if you don't mind, I can start with you because you actually have a personal relationship with Bishop Jakes. You've been calling him out for the past few years, damn near feel like a decade or so. You've been calling the man out, and now it seems like he didn't answer your phone call, and now he just stepped all the way down.
Yeah.
So
I don't blame him. I wouldn't answer the phone call. This bitch don't start letting me ask me the question. I would answer the call. Go ahead, though.
Okay,
please.
Let me say this, man, to Mr. TD Jakes. You know what I'm saying? It was never any beef, anything like that. It was just some things that went on that I wanted to sit down and talk to you about that happened at the Mega Fest in Atlanta. And one of the ministers you had on staff, because of where I came from, you know what I'm saying, it challenged my faith because of some things he did. So I just wanted to talk to you. I talked to Sean. Well, I didn't say no name, but your head security guard came and hollered at me. And I sent the word out that I just wanted to speak with you. But your son came by. Shout out to my man, your son, Jermaine. He know what it is. We talked and we discussed it. But I just want to say this to you, Bishop. You have sown a lot of seeds in Dallas. Ever since you came down, I had the honor of cutting your hair, meeting your First Lady, Jakes, Mama Jakes, Sarah, Cora. I just mentioned y'all named Jermaine, Jamar, Lil Dex. It was an honor meeting you all. And let me say to Mama Jakes, thank you for...
A civil filing introduces a name, and almost instantly the culture around it begins moving faster than the legal system itself. In 50 Cent's documentary, that pattern is hard to miss. An allegation enters a broader legal atmosphere, and before the process has time to breathe, simple proximity starts being read as possible involvement. TD Jakes has often been portrayed as more than a public figure. He is described in relational terms as an advisor, a connector, a stabilizing presence, and someone whose influence reaches into institutional and civic spaces. In that kind of environment, even the suggestion that credibility could be borrowed or used carries weight far beyond the original accusation. The law is designed to separate suspicion from proof. It tests claims, demands standards, and moves carefully before reaching conclusions. Public memory, however, rarely shows that same patience. It tends to collapse timelines, blur association into accountability, and settle on a storyline long before a courtroom ever does. And once that early version of events hardens in people's minds, the real concern becomes whether due process still has room to work at all in the court of public opinion.
My birthday is tomorrow. His wife's birthday is tomorrow. Happy birthday!
In 50 Cent's documentary, the real focus is not only what allegedly happened at a party, but what influence can protect once the night is over. Again and again, the transcript circles back to a striking idea. Moral credibility can soften scandal, and money, status, and legitimacy often move through the same tightly connected world. The film does not frame this as something exclusive to Diddy or TD Jakes. Instead, it points to a broader system in which institutions can, sometimes without intending to, become buffers between powerful people and true accountability. In that setting, the right relationship can slow fallout, reshape perception, and buy valuable time. That is where the story becomes larger than any one name. If reputation can be managed with the precision of a campaign, then responsibility becomes much harder to define. The documentary leaves hanging an unsettling question. What does accountability really look like when trust itself can be traded like currency?
Yo, happy to have you back on the platform, man. It's been a while, man. I haven't had you on the platform in a long time, man.
Man, stop playing, man. I ain't never left, man. All I did was change clothes.
So I want to get right into it, man. How you feel about these rumors surrounding, Diddy and TD Jakes?
Man, what I think about it is this, when I grew up in the church, the sinners was not supposed to have the same atmosphere with the saints. You have to be able to separate the two. So I'm looking at him as a saint going to a party that ain't nothing but sin, drinking, maybe fornication, man on man, woman on woman, he on she. But maybe he'd have to lay some hands on somebody. Maybe he'd have to save some souls. I know he got a contract with Revolt, so I'm just like, it's just real strange that he would be found at any kind of Diddy party or any kind of place with Diddy unless it's in a business atmosphere. So now what he's doing is he's making the Christians look real bad right about now.
And you've been to these parties, right?
Oh yeah, I was there when he was doing the white parties in the Hamptons and the whole 9 yards. So I know what goes on at the parties. If they probably got a little bit more freakier, as time went on, because they got to the point where that they didn't even care. It used to be secretly, where people used to go to, separate rooms and different rooms, and they wasn't doing that out in the public, So, but now they don't care. Men kissing men and all this other stuff. That's just crazy.
So why do you think he was going to these parties?
I think that he's going to the Diddy party, bruh. If he's going, we know he's going to the Diddy party, and I know that it's, I know what usually happens at the Diddy party, or what we're told this happened at the Diddy party. Maybe he need to see it for himself, man. Maybe he need to go there and really be involved in some things that could help save some individuals while they going to those parties. Or maybe he just go.
A personal account enters the conversation, and its impact comes not only from the details alleged, but from the imbalance of power surrounding it. In 50 Cent's documentary, the story follows a path that feels painfully familiar: emotional access, mentorship, praise, and closeness, followed by an alleged violation that transforms intimacy into something that can be seen as leverage. Even when handled strictly as an allegation, the claim resonates quickly because it mirrors a pattern the public already understands. When authority is uneven, vulnerability can begin to look less like openness and more like exposure. What should feel safe can start to feel conditional. For communities built on spiritual trust, that possibility is deeply destabilizing. It is not only the accusation itself that shakes the foundation, but the fear that trust may have been used in ways it never should have been. And if faith leadership depends on moral clarity, the documentary quietly asks how much uncertainty that foundation can carry before it begins to crack.
It's hard to even talk about why would you find a religious man, when you know that the saints supposed to separate themselves from the sinners, and why would a religious man like himself be at a party which ain't nothing but sin that's going on, bro? Whether it's drinking, maybe fornicating, maybe, like I said, men on men, women on women. It's hard to put in perspective unless he's involving himself what is actually going on at the party. It's hard, brother. Bro, you can't, I really don't know why, as a spiritual advisor to him, that they buddy when he got a party with him like that and be at his party. It's got to be, maybe it's something more that meets the eye. I don't know. I've had, I've talked to preachers and I've talked to reverends and priests, but they ain't never came to a party with me or nothing like that. So it's hard to figure that one out, bro, without even saying, what people might be thinking. But I heard that there's supposed to be some tapes or something that's coming out real soon, and I guess we'll all really know the truth if anything's on those tapes.
From your point of view, right, when you look at TD Jakes, your point of view, your opinion, do you take him serious as a pastor?
Do I take him serious? That's not my type of pastor. You got to look at a person's household. And if your household is not in order, you understand, how you going to help somebody else get their house in order? You know, one of his sons got arrested, you know, some years ago in Dallas, you know, allegedly for being found in the park where a bunch of people that are homosexuals hang out and indulge in sexual activity. And I heard his two sons, which are not his biological sons, both of them are from that LGBT community. Now, how you gonna help me straighten out my house? And to me, your house ain't in order. Not saying that something is wrong with them being.
A former prosecutor enters the documentary and brings the conversation back to the place where public speculation meets institutional reality. In 50 Cent's documentary, that perspective matters because it pulls attention away from viral reactions and redirects it toward legal thresholds. What can actually be investigated, what can be charged, what can be proved, and what may never make it into a courtroom at all. The contrast is sharp. Courts move through evidence, procedure, and burdens of proof, taking time in the hope of reducing error. Culture moves through interpretation, momentum, and storytelling, often with no pause at all. One system is built to be careful, while the other is built to react. That growing divide becomes one of the documentary's most compelling themes. When legal findings and public belief begin traveling in opposite directions, the gap between what is established and what people assume only gets wider. And once that distance grows, perception can become its own kind of verdict, whether the formal process has finished or not.